Greetings, friends, Grecians and Aeipathians, to the first episode of this, my really cool show, Aeipathy Conspiracy Theories with Ali and her hat that's falling off. Fuck. Anyway, today we'll be discussing which Thanasi child is the adopted Thanasi child. I will be your host, and there will be no guest stars because you all live really far away, and I can't afford Ezra Miller to do this with me. So, without further ado, let's find out which Thanasi child is the adopted. Why Mihail is the adopted Thanasi, a presentational thesis by me, Ali. In Artemisios of 672 BC, Thea of Thanasi discovered hidden adoption papers at least 10 years old within her older sister's chambers. This makes obvious that one of the Thanasis is adopted. Kept hidden in a safe within her sister's rooms, Thea of Thanasi discovers several sheaths of paperwork. The parchment is dark with age of at least 10 years, if not far more, and the ink has faded. But the words and purpose of the documents are clear when held to direct light of candle or sun. Papers detail the completed adoption of a child into the house of Thanasi, one of non-noble birth from a family of no name, brought into the fold and adopted and legitimized as Thanasi born. The name of the child is not mentioned. So, which one is it? Side note, Nephis is going to be totally pissed that one of her siblings was going through her shit. The Thanasi children. As you can see on this family tree, there are only 5 viable candidates. Dion is not an eligible candidate, as he was born a Cotus and this child was legitimised as Thanasi born. Therefore, our candidates for adoption remain Nephis, Thea, Evras, Odysseus, or Mihail. 5 births. Neither the births of Nephis nor Thea were problematic according to the historical timeline. With Evras's birth, we learn that Dionysios was eager for a male heir. This means our 2 most likely candidates are narrowed down to Odysseus or Mihail, as he would be more willing to act to ensure the next child was male. There is, therefore, a very real possibility that, frustrated by the lack of a male heir, Odysseus was adopted. We can also assume a possibility that the complications after Mihail's birth might have led to the need to adopt a child in his place. So, is it Odysseus or Mihail? The theory behind Odysseus's possible adoption is that, frustrated by the lack of a male heir to the Thanasi bloodline and worried by Ula's age, the Thanasis adopt a peasant child and legitimize him in the Thanasi name, only to have an actual Thanasi son just 3 years later. The evidence we have to support this is that Odysseus is the least Thanasi-looking of all the Thanasi children, and Dionysius of Thanasi is described as believing, "You never wait for someone to give you what you want, you take it," meaning it would not have been out of the ordinary for him to have grown impatient of not having a male heir and simply having adopted a random peasant child instead. The theory behind Mihail's possible adoption is that in the complications following the birth of Mihail due to Ula's age, the baby named Mihail of Thanasi died. As a result, a new child with similar enough features to the rest of the family was adopted in his place. The evidence we have to support this is that Mihail's genetics do not entirely match up with those of the Thanasi family. Mihail was born in Nethesa, while the rest of the family in Megaris. And finally, Ula of Thanasi would have been 62 at the time of Mihail's birth. It would have been immensely difficult for her to give birth, even disregarding the high infant mortality rates at the time. So let's take a closer look at the genetics. According to the House's registry, we know that the dominant traits for Thanasis are black hair, light eyes, pale skin, sharp features, and thin frames. Because pale skin, the sharpness of features and the thinness of frames can be determined by environmental factors as well, we're going to be focusing on the hair and the eyes. With regards to eye colour, light eyes is the case for every member of the family but Mihail. Thea has hazel eyes and Evras has blue-green eyes. Odysseus, Nethys and Dionysius all have clear blue eyes. This means their mother, Ula, must have had hazel eyes, most likely hazel blue, as blue appears to be the dominant eye colour in her birth family, but we'll get to that later. A Punnett square of Thanasi genetics would hence look like this, with Dionysius's blue alleles and Ula's one brown and one blue. That means there's a 50-50 chance that a Thanasi child could have had hazel blue eyes or pure blue eyes. Because of this, Ula of Thanasi could not have had brown eyes, otherwise all of her children would have, at the very least, have had hazel eyes, as you can see on the left. This is because the brown gene is dominant over the blue. This means all the Thanasi children born of Dionysios and Ula must have either blue eyes or hazel blue eyes, but none of them can have purely brown eyes. Mihail of Thanasi has purely brown eyes, therefore he cannot have been born from the union of Dionysios of Thanasi and Ula of Thanasi. A side note on Ula's appearance. I asked JD, as you can see here, if there was a canon face claim for Ula of Thanasi. I was told the only requirement is familial resemblance, and obviously her age, but that wouldn't factor into her genetics. This means we're open to make our own assumptions about her appearance. However, based on the eye colours of her first 4 children, Ula must have had light or hazel eyes. And based on her siblings, Silas and Mithras' eye colours, which were determined using the eye colours of Tithon of Cotys, Tithra of Dracos, and Rhea of Eliadis, shown here on the Punnett squares to the right, the only options are for Ula to have either blue or hazel blue eyes. Due to Thea's eye colour, we can assume hazel. Whilst eye colour might heavily determine which child might have been adopted, hair colour is not a determining factor. As can be seen here, every Thanasi has dark hair. Dionysios, Nethys, Thea, Evras and Mihail all possess either black or deepest brunette hair, depending on the lighting. Odysseus's hair, however, is far lighter and unmistakably brown. However, this theory can be easily discarded, as Ula of Thanasi, born Cotys, most likely had dark brown hair, and it is genetically possible, as you can see on this diagram, for a child born from her union with Dionysus to thus have lighter brown hair. Now let's take a final look at some of the site canon. According to their canon descriptions, we can see that 5 of the 6 Thanasis were all born in the same province of Megaris: Dionysios, Nethys, Thea, Evras and Odysseus. However, one of them, Mihail, was born in Nethisa. So the question is, why was Mihail born here rather than here? Was Mihail perhaps born in Nethisa to one of the many prostitutes or escaped slaves found there, becoming the baby used to replace the lost Thanasi child? Many signs that we've just talked about point to this being a definite possibility, because he was the fucking adopted baby. I rest my motherfucking case. Any questions?